some web hosting and domain names at ozsome.com. Mostly sunny skies in the forecast for today. It'll be windy, a southwest wind up to 30 miles per hour, and the high near 60. A chance of showers late tonight, mostly cloudy, overnight temperature about 45. Rain in the forecast for tomorrow, Thursday. It'll be near 50 and rather breezy. Friday, mostly sunny, about 35 degrees, definitely a chill in the air. Your life, your music. We're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. India's Supreme Court says the government cannot deport 40,000 Rohingya refugees settled in the country for another month. US President Donald Trump says his country is experiencing a new American moment. He's delivered his maiden State of the Union. Catalonia's parliament's indefinitely postponed electing its new president, while the only candidate remains in self-imposed exile in Belgium, and UK Prime Minister Theresa May says she is not a quitter.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Quabila Harden, and my special guest today is Mrs. Erica Tait from the Northeast Arkansas Regional Transportation Planning Commission. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're going to talk about, most people have heard of MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization. And so Mrs. Tait works, you're the director of that program. And so she's going to give us some overview of what she does, what her and other committee members do to try to help make the city great and make transportation better. And transportation does it include the roadways as well?
Yes.
In the planning? Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get started. First, let's talk about MPO, give an overall.
Okay, and so an MPO stands for Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the name is a little confusing. MPOs were signed into federal legislation after the Highway Act. Some people realized that the way that transportation investment, specifically highways and roadways, were being added to communities was lacking regional input or local input. So, there was direction from the Department of Transportation, but really at the local level, there was no input. And so the MPO was created, and MPOs are mandated by federal law for any urbanized area that has more than 50,000 people. Okay. So there are more than 400 MPOs in the United States, and there are 8 in Arkansas.
Oh. Okay. And so let's talk about how did you get into this position, or what even got you interested in doing this?
That is a great question. So my husband had relocated to the area, and I was relocating as well from Kentucky, and looking for an opportunity to serve and sort of a job that had a challenge. I was introduced to some community members, and they made me aware that the assistant planner position was opening at the MPO at that time. Both the director and the assistant planner were leaving at the same time. So I applied for the assistant planner position and talked to the person in the current role, and we had some good conversations, and they recommended that the mayor of Jonesboro and the policy committee of the MPO hire me and another gentleman from Ohio to be the staff of the MPO. Okay. That gentleman had some health complications and ended up leaving, and when he left, the policy committee of the MPO promoted me to be the director, and I've been in that role for almost 3 years.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. Now, I do want to direct people to the City of Jonesboro's website if you would like to learn more information. There are documents that are posted they're called annual summer projects, summer plans, some information on different programs like Transportation Improvement Program, Unified Planning Work Program. So all of this information is available to the public if you go to www.jonesboro.org, and I guess they need to type in either MPO or...
They can, if they go to jonesboro.org, across the top, there's a banner. If you kind of hover over the word government.
Okay.
And then you'll get sort of a drop-down menu, and Metropolitan Planning Organization is underneath that.
Okay. And so you can see all these different documents, and then there are some upcoming events. There's some updates listed. There's quite a bit of information here, and I will warn you, some of these plans are over 200 pages long. So unless you like a little light reading.
And I can talk more about the planning activities.
Please do.
So like I said, MPOs were created in order to make sure that the local voice was considered when federal funding was provided for transportation projects. And transportation projects relate to roadways, highways, sidewalks, in some instances bicycle lanes, public transportation, so freight, rail, and in some instances even air. Okay. So it's very important that the local voice is represented in the decisions that are made as far as what projects get funded, what projects are prioritized, because it's one thing to make a decision sort of with an idea of maybe there's a traffic congestion issue. There's another factor that needs to be considered as far as how do locals experience that traffic congestion, or what is the cause of that traffic congestion from a local perspective. And so that is primarily the reason that MPOs were created, was to be able to build consensus with local stakeholders and elected officials, as well as the community, and then to coordinate with state departments of transportation and federal partners to make the best investment with federal dollars in the transportation system in the region.
Wow, and I'm sure you can get a lot of feedback from a lot of people who drive, especially down Red Wolf Boulevard, between
Yes.
Red Wolf, Highland, Caraway.
Yes.
And even now Johnson is starting to pick up on the traffic flow. I noticed in the mornings, even after the kids are going to school, I don't know if people are coming from, like, say, Brooklyn, Bono, that area out there, coming into town, going to work. Anyway, traffic is really picking up. And then with added developments such as, I think ASU is starting to work on the convention center and hotel, and then other projects that are going on. That affects the transportation as well, because you have either people coming into work that are working on these projects, people coming to work, period. People migrating here from other surrounding cities that are looking for a bigger place to live. I mean, so there's a lot of factors that go into...
You're ready to be a transportation planner. See, you understand all the factors that, as you mentioned, development, or what we refer to a lot in the planning field is land use, how the land is being used and developed, migration patterns, workflow,
Wow.
goods moving. All of that does affect transportation, the way we get around. Let's just talk about Johnson Avenue for a second.
Okay.
So, I mean... even though I wasn't here, I'm going to assume that it was primarily constructed to move vehicles quickly from one end of town to the other, right? And it does that relatively efficiently, but it did it more efficiently when you had less land uses that attracted people. You know, when you didn't have the hospital there, when you know, A-State has built so much, you know, now there's a large... housing development on one side of Johnson, and like you said, A-State's expanding and still planning to expand with their convention center, and you know, the new Bills Market on the other end of Johnson. So all of those things, then you're right, add to the traffic patterns, but also people walking, because you have a lot of jet bus stops along that route, or people trying to cross the street. So you have all of these kind of things working together and interacting, and unfortunately, we can't just up and move our major arterials. That's what we would call Johnson, a major street that moves several cars. And sometimes we can't expand them because we may not have the space. We may not own the land. There may be competing land uses. So we have to try and mitigate the traffic congestion, but also make sure that people are still, goods and people are able to move efficiently through our town or to places along that arterial. So it that's just one example. You named several others that, you know, in transportation planning we discuss often. How do we keep people safe? How do we keep them moving? How do we move different people doing different things? And how do we do that on a regular basis? Okay.
Now, there is a committee that is put together to discuss and decide these different things. And so if you would like to see who is on the committee, you can click on the Regional Active Transportation Plan. Now, of course, we're not going to go through all this because it's over 200 pages long, but let's talk about this plan.
Okay, I will. So as you mentioned, Cubila, we have currently, the MPO has 4 committees. So the policy committee is like the MPO board. The MPO kind of doesn't really work for one city. We work for all the cities in our region. So we currently serve Bay, Bono, Brooklyn, Jonesboro, and some portions of Craighead County. So our bylaws, which are based on federal law, dictate who the members of the policy committee are. And it's generally a representative from each of those communities that we serve, a representative from the Department of Transportation, and a representative from the public transit community. Okay. So our policy committee is currently made up of 11 people. And that committee pretty much is set in stone, right? And, we don't really add people to it or take away from it unless federal legislation mandates it. And then we have a technical advisory committee, and most MPOs are set up like this, with at least a policy committee or board and a technical committee or board. And what the technical committee does is they get into the weeds, the dirt, the data, the situations. They, have experience, eyes on the ground. They are from the freight community, from industry, they're engineers, business owners, people who are regularly involved in transportation aspects. We also have citizens. We have representatives from the railroad. We have representatives from school districts. So we try to have a wide representation on that technical committee, and they make all the recommendations to the policy committee. Wow. So nothing really goes to the policy committee that hasn't come through the technical committee and the MPO staff first. Okay. And then we have 2 what we call we have one what we call an ad hoc committee, and then we have one now that started out ad hoc. It was our Citizen Advisory Committee, and it was developed to really help us with our long-term plan, which I'll get to in a second. But after we kind of got through the long-term plan process, the technical committee and policy committee thought it would be great to have a Citizen Advisory Committee ongoing. And so now they are ongoing, and they're a part of our bylaws, and they're part of the fabric of the MPO. Yes.
Okay, with the Citizen Advisory Committee, do you feel like you get a fair amount of either feedback or participation? Since, people will say a lot on social media, they'll say a lot to other people, but when the time comes to speak up to the people who are actually doing the work, do you feel like you get enough participation or feedback?
That's a great question. We are always looking to add more voices to our Citizen Advisory Committee. But I will say there have been a few very faithful members who have stuck with us these whole 3 years through several projects, and they have been an absolute vital asset to the success of the MPO, to getting the word out to communities that they're a part of, organizations they're a part of, about what we're doing and why we're doing that. And so we are always looking to add new voices to hear, because everybody's transportation experience and story is different. And the more pictures that we have of those stories, the more comprehensive plans we can do.
Well, I'm going to need to definitely have a talk with you after. So how can one be a part of the Citizen Advisory Committee?
If someone is interested in being part of our Citizen Advisory Committee, they can contact me directly. Okay. And I can get them involved with the steps. Technically, our Citizen Advisory Committee, as well as our technical committee, are subject to the approval of the policy committee. Okay. So I try to make sure that, one, people understand what the role and function of the Citizen Advisory Committee is and what that commitment looks like. And then kind of help them get orientated to or acclimated to our policy committee as well. Okay. So if someone is interested, like you mentioned, they can go to our website, and then There's a page on the left-hand side. There's a list of all our pages. There's only 5. And there's a page that says About Us. And my contact information is there along with my picture, so you make sure it's me. Okay. And people can certainly get in contact with me. I would love it. We love to add people to our Citizen Advisory Committee. Thank you for asking about that.
Alrighty. So, and I utilize the JET service, and I talk to other people who utilize the service. And so I know, again, it's more than just the buses on the road, and there's a whole lot more that goes into all of it. So I definitely would love to have a little more hands-on and share my experience, what it's like trying to navigate around town.
Yeah.
And utilizing the different resources that are available. All right, so let's get into, we have enough time. Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Okay, so the MTP, or Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or for some other MPOs, it's known as the Long Range Transportation Plan. They're all the same. It is required by federal law that regional transportation agencies try to look out 20 or so years. Okay. And predict or project what may be needed. Now, none of us have a crystal ball, so these are mostly estimations, but we try to keep our state and federal partners involved with what we think may be needed based on population trends, on land use trends, on changing demographics, what we think may be needed in our region, how much funding we think we may need, what projects we think will be vital to the success of our region over that 20-year or in that 20-year period. So that's what the long-term plan does. We update it every 4 to 5 years. Okay. We will begin updating our plan next year, so we will be looking for all kinds of feedback and comments. One of the key components of MPOs is public participation and public feedback. And so we tried to really get the public involved. When we did our last long-term plan, we hired a firm out of Kansas to do a transportation survey. We did a lot of presentations and community workshops, and I anticipate that we'll be doing that again, because there's a lot at stake. For one, transportation affects all of our daily lives. Yes, ma'am. And there's a lot that we can learn, again, like I mentioned, from the local perspective, how community members are experiencing the transportation system. And so we will be looking to get people involved. Okay. And again, you can find this on the City of Jonesboro's website. And this is called,
the 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. It is over 200 pages long, so unless you like just doing some reading at night, whatever.
Well, we tried to make it easy to read, and a lot of it is appendices. I will say that. So if you kind of just want to get the gist of what the MPO does and the projects we're looking at, you're probably looking at about 70 to 80 pages. Okay. But if you want to know how we got all that information, then you'll read the appendices. But we definitely, we tried to make it just reader friendly, because a lot of the work we do is technical. There's no getting away from that. Okay. We have to look at traffic counts. We have to analyze trends and those type of things. But we try to make our plans reader friendly so that anybody can pick it up and kind of get a gist of what's going on and why it's going that way. There's a lot of very useful information about demographics, trends, and the towns or cities that we serve and how they're growing and changing as well. So, and there's lots of charts and pictures. So we try to make that standard as much as we can in our plans. Yes.
Now, do you get feedback from local law enforcement when it comes to traffic accidents and things of that nature?
Yes, so we get data from them. We meet on various committees with them, even at the state level, to understand, what are some of the challenges and if we can help. Now, I always say this, the MPO doesn't build anything and we don't make anything. So that's my disclaimer. What we do is provide people with the information they need to make informed decisions about the transportation system, either currently or in the future. Right? But that takes a lot of coordination because, like we've kind of said, there's a lot of moving pieces. And we get a lot of data from the state Department of Transportation, the state police office, so they can kind of help us understand. And even here, our local police, we get a report every month that kind of tells us where crashes are happening, why they're happening, who is involved. So that is very helpful in our analysis when we're making recommendations about projects.
Wow, That's a lot more than I even could imagine that went into planning, transportation planning for a city. And I can imagine a city of this size. I mean, there's just a lot moving parts that have to be taken into consideration and organized in a detailed manner, so that it makes sense to all parties involved. I'm just looking through this particular, the 2040 plan. It is very detailed, and I love how there are some charts and different things that kind of grab your attention in one place to another. It's the headline, the topics, the headers of each section are very bold, and so you don't have to just like look really deep. You can kind of scroll, and when something catches your eye, you can stop and look there. One thing we didn't mention, I don't think we brought up bikes. People are riding bikes a lot more as well, so that also goes into the planning. I was looking at the other plan, which is the regional active transportation plan, and there is a chart on one of the pages, and it talks about your plan goals, and there's a lot of pictures, public input, recommendation. Like, there's a lot in here. So we really thank you for the hard work and dedication you put into it.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. We are glad to do it. And like I said, we could not do any of it without our committees. We are a 2-person staff.
Oh my!
And sometimes we have interns, which is very helpful. But our committees really are the backbone of our organization. They help us a great deal. And perhaps after the break, we can talk more about the active transportation plan.
Yes, ma'am. Also, when we come back from break, I want to talk more about public input, which is a section I see in here, and how you go about collecting that information, and then also the public participation plan. Get a little bit more into that.
Absolutely.
So you're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We're speaking with Mrs. Erica Tait from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'm going to get the full title right before the end of the show. Please stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
What do you say to someone who's grieving a loss or experiencing hardship? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. You may have said, if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know. But how often will someone who needs help actually let you know they need it? It's easy to offer help, but it's better to actually help. Here are some ways you can do just that. First, tell them, we have some groceries or home-cooked food we'd like to bring over. When would be a good time? Making extra of your next meal or grabbing some basic groceries like milk, produce, bread, or lunch meat for them can be a big help to someone who lacks the time or resources. For more tips, visit my blog at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook and KNOMEGA1908.com.
Meineke of Jonesboro is now Starks Auto Service, a full-service auto repair and vehicle maintenance center offering engine and transmission repair, brake service, tires, oil changes, and more, performed by ASE certified mechanics. The all-new Starks Auto Service, 2813 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, 870-204-7112. Starks Auto Service, Jonesboro.com.
The Epic Center, located at 1899 Hasbrook Road, County Road 333, is Jonesboro's newest venue for entertainment for the entire family. They offer an auditorium with theater-style seating for up to 1,100 guests, a large stage, professional lighting and sound, dressing rooms, concessions, and more. Available for weddings, concerts, pageants, birthday parties, showers, and more. Booking and other information is available at Epic Center Jonesboro on Facebook, epiccenterjonesboro.com, and at 870-530-5841.
House of Details, located at 3217 Herb Street, Suite C, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle: waxing, clear coat protection, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more, with a motto of anything mean, we can clean. Details available via Quentin Bogard at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and houseofdetailsjonesboro.com.
KLEK 102.5 FM wants to be active in the community. If you or your organization is hosting a community service event, we would like to know about it and be a part of it. KLEK will promote your event on air, online, and on social media. KLEK personalities may also attend the event and provide music and or entertainment. Certain restrictions and availability may apply. If you or your organization would like to partner with KLEK to make the Jonesboro community a better place, call 870-277-1080 or email us at klek@klekfm.org. In order for a community announcement or church announcement to be aired on KLEK 102.5 FM, we ask that the announcement be sent at minimum 1 week in advance. Thank you for supporting KLEK 102.5 FM.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Kabila Harden, and I am speaking with Mrs. Erica Tait, from the Northeast Arkansas Regional Transportation Planning Commission, and she is the director of the MPO here. Well, not just the city of Jonesboro, but Craig County. I'm just going to say Craig County.
That's fine.
I'm going to try to keep from stumbling over my words today. Okay, so moving on. We ended the last segment talking about the Citizen Advisory Committee and, how one can get involved with that. Just please reach out to Mrs. Tait. You can go to jonesboro.org, and you can even type in her name. It'll pull up her information page with her email address and office phone number, and reach out to her and see what the steps are to getting involved. If you have concern about the city and the transportation needs and where you think things should go, and just want to give your feedback, reach out to her, please. Okay, so we were going to start this segment by talking about the public participation plan, and then getting public input in the Regional Active Transportation Plan. There's a section that talks about, and this is under the effective summary, public input. It shows some ways that you gather information from individuals. So tell us more about how you get this information.
Okay. So the public participation plan is another federal requirement, but it really is meant to outline how the MPO interacts with the public and how the public can interact with the MPO. It talks about how we give notices, how we relate to and contact underserved populations, and how we basically engage the public throughout the planning process. So the reason the MPO has all these plans is because the transportation planning process is supposed to be continuous, meaning we're always evaluating, always looking at ways to make the system better as the landscape of our region is changing. And then also we work a lot to get kind of public input, but also to provide education and engagement with the public so they understand how all the moving pieces work sort of together. So the transportation planning process it's very dialectical, meaning we're going to the public, getting information, we're looking at the system and what it's doing, and we try to document in our plans how we're doing that. And the public participation plan explains how the public is invited to share their information, comments, where they can expect to see postings, when plans are available for comment, how long we keep our plans out for comment, and that type of thing. Generally, every plan the MPO produces will be available for public comment at least 15 days. Our public participation plan, our Title VI plan, is available for 45 days. Okay. So people have time, like Yubila said, some of them are a little long, but you have several days to read it, digest it, formulate questions, and provide comments to the MPO, and that is generally the standard for every plan we produce. In regard to the ways we've collected or had public participation, a lot of it is sort of driven by comments we hear around town. I do a lot of presentations to civic groups, schools. If somebody asks me to do a presentation, I generally do it. Okay. And then we learn from that how people want to be engaged. We have gone to the NEA district fair and given out information there. We have done surveys ourselves. We currently have a survey out right now just for general transportation. It's on our website. If you go if you go to news, or actually on our front page on that little slideshow, there's an image you can click. It says, "We want your feedback," and you can give us your feedback. But we've also hired professional firms to do that for us, and we've gotten feedback that way. We have what's called public involvement meetings. We meet with groups, and to give an example, Kubila was talking about the active transportation plan. And what during the development of our long-term transportation plan, we noticed we got a lot of comments, people saying we want more options for bicycling or walking or running around town. We want more options to use public transportation or to get from various locations, home or work or healthcare locations, to transit stops. We want to be able to do that more frequently. How can we do that more frequently? And so as a result of those comments, even though it wasn't a big portion of our long-term plan, we created a plan just dedicated to people who want to walk, cycle, or both, and use transit in the area. And that's what our active transportation plan is. It highlights a vision that we see for the region, maybe not immediately, but over a period of time, developing a region that is more bicycle and walking and transit friendly. And so as a result of the comments from the long-term plan, we developed the active transportation plan. And the way we got comments from the active transportation plan, we did a bunch of presentations to people and asked for their feedback. We had people rate our plan goals to tell us what they thought was more important or where money should be allocated. We had people write comments about how they envisioned the future of transit, walking and biking in the community, how they saw it currently, how they see walking, biking, and transit currently. We had people take pictures for us. We had all sorts of things. We developed a sort of schedule of activities, races, and things like that are already happening in the community in case somebody wanted to be involved, and we put that in the plan. So we did quite a bit of outreach, but we're always looking to expand our outreach even more so that high schoolers can get involved, and even middle schoolers can understand what transportation planning is and how it affects them, not only now, but how it will affect them in the future. We do a lot of conversation with Tait students. We've done a few presentations for them. Something I can remember, when we were doing our long-term plan, we presented to a public administration class at Tait, and we gave them all like they were fake, $300 bills. It was just green paper, wasn't anything that they could really spend. And we had I think 5 or 6 goals. Okay. But they could only put their money, they could only use as much money as they had. So they had to narrow down what was important to them. And we use that to explain how sometimes we have all these projects going on, but we only have the money for 2 or 3, even though we may need 10. And so how we have to make decisions about what the best priority and investment is for the system at the time. And so they really enjoyed that exercise. Okay. And we got some feedback from them from their experience as well. Wow.
So all of what you do really helps the highway department and other entities put their plans into action when it comes to helping to make changes around the city, the different cities all across the country. I was thinking about a conversation I had with someone who works for the city of Jonesboro with the roads department. I don't know exactly what that department is called, but basically they handle all of the fixing, say, potholes and laying the pavement, anything dealing with the roads. And again, it goes back to, okay, we have to have money. We have all of these projects. Even talking with the mayor, we have like this many projects, but we have this much money. So we have to decide what's necessary now or what's going to be beneficial long term. And God bless all of you all that have to think present and future at the same time, because you have to make present choices that affect the future.
That is correct. Yeah, and something you're saying in the last federal legislation which guides MPOs, it's called the FAST Act, Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act. It was passed in December 2015, but something that the feds have been tossing around for a while was something we call performance-based programming. It's like you could imagine it like school, right? Your kid goes to school, they study for a test, they do well on a test, they get an A, and the teacher may give them a reward. Mm-hmm. Okay, similarly, the feds were saying, we're giving this money to towns, but we don't really know if they're achieving the goals we need them to. And so what we're going to do is we're going to give them a set of criteria that they have to meet with as money. If they meet it, we're all good. If they don't, we're going to have to make some adjustments with the way the money is spent. So we have really been getting into gear with performance-based planning and programming, which basically means we have to measure the choices we make and the way our system is performing against the criteria that the federal government has provided for national goals. So really, what that means for us as transportation planners and government officials is we have to really try to make the most efficient use of the federal dollars that we have, along with the local dollars that we have. And so one thing I can think about, I get a lot of comments, and I see a lot of comments on social media about the pavement, the resurfacing of roads. And this is a great example, a great opportunity for me to explain how performance-based programming comes into it. So one of the national goals is system preservation. We know that our infrastructure is crumbling. We know currently we don't have enough funding to fix what we already have, let alone what we're building or want to build, right? We know that is the situation. So what one of the measures is, like I said, system preservation. So what departments of transportation across the U.S. have had to do is go, well, some parts of our system are poor, some are fair, and some are good. Okay. So we may not be able to remedy the ones that are poor, but we can keep the ones that are fair from being poor. Okay. The way we can do that is by resurfacing them before they get poor. Okay. Right? So I hear a lot of time people go, well, that was a perfectly good road. Why did they resurface it? Because we're trying to preserve our pavement so that it doesn't get to the poor state, and then we have to put more money into it. And we already have issues maintaining what we have. So we're trying to make the upgrades now for those parts that are in fair condition. So no, they may not have a bunch of potholes and they may not be torn up, but they have been rated in fair condition. Okay. And so we're trying to move them from fair to good instead of let them depreciate from fair to poor. And then we have to spend more money trying to fix them.
So then I'm sure you get the question, okay, well, you do all that. Then what about the ones that are poor that are going to continue to get poorer?
That is a great
that's
question.
A word.
Yes.
Please, some English teacher don't come from me. But the ones that are poor are going to
get worse.
Yes, get worse.
I think, sadly, but this is the reality. We all have a checkbook. We all know that sometimes we have more bills than we have money. So that's the situation we are with our infrastructure. And sometimes the decisions have to be made just to let things lapse. And that's not an easy decision, and of course that's not any decision we are trying to make, but the reality is it would cost several more $1 million to try to move those things from poor to fair than it will to move the things from fair to good.
Well, okay, so when you put the time and energy into fixing the fair to make them good, does the federal government then say, okay, well, they are making an effort, let's give them a little more the next time around, or something?
That's a great question. Currently, the federal government doesn't have more to give, so they're saying we will keep giving you what you're getting. If you do what we tell you, if you don't do what we're asking, we won't give you what you're getting.
Okay.
So right now, it's sort of like, if you want to maintain the status quo, then you'll do what we're asking. Otherwise, we'll have to reallocate some money until you get up to speed. And it's really not about punishing. It's really about, we have, like I said, the whole country has a crumbling infrastructure, and we have to make some hard decisions going forward.
I mean, look at it with your job. If you're not performing to the level that your employer expects of you, they're going to cut your hours or eventually shift you out of your job.
Exactly.
So
that is a great example. Exactly.
So it's kind of the same, especially those that don't work for a salary. If you get paid an hourly wage, your boss can say, well, you're coming in late, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, I'm just going to give you less time on your shift.
Yeah.
So
that is a great example. And there are some things, I do want to make sure I express this. There are some things that are poor that we are absolutely, and when I say we, transportation field, federal government, etc., looking to correct. For example, we have some bridges that are structurally deficient. We are looking to fix those. We're not going to, let people drive over bridges that are crumbling. But that being said, a bridge that is crumbling may be more dire than a road that has several potholes.
Okay.
Right? Because that bridge may move several traffic, could cause lots of issues, could move freight and goods. And that road, while it may move all those things, may be less of a concern as far as safety than the bridge. So I do want to say that there are some things that, even though they are poor, we do have to absolutely invest in them to keep transportation going and the economy going. So.
And I do want to let people know that this information that we're discussing, again, it's on the Jonesboro.org website, and this particular information is under the public participation plan. If you scroll down the page, you will see federal legislation requiring public participation, and this is where it outlines the FAST Act. It gives you bullet points, very detailed bullet points on what this act includes, when it was implemented, was signed into law rather, on December 4th, 2015. And so it goes into great detail about this program, this act, so please check this out. Again, this is the public participation plan put together by the Jonesboro Metropolitan Planning Organization. There is a wealth of information on the City of Jonesboro's webpage, and a lot of people I've heard people say, well, the city's not doing this and the city's not, what they're not doing. But if you will go on their webpage, and I'm not taking up for every single person, no, but there are people who are working behind the scenes quietly to try to get things done. And then there is a lot of public information available. So if you want to know what's going on in these different committee meetings, there are notes available. There are agendas or different things available at your disposal. So just go check it out.
Well, I'm glad you said that too, because you had mentioned public participation in every one of our normal committee meetings. Policy, technical, citizen advisory, and active transportation committee are open to the public.
Okay.
We post agendas 7 days before the meeting, so you can know what is going to occur at the meeting, and the public is, like I said, always able to attend any of those regularly scheduled committee meetings, and we encourage it. And also, in regard to the information on the webpage, if you're looking for things that happened or meeting minutes from from previous meetings, we try to keep a year's worth of committee meetings, the agenda and the corresponding minutes on our archive page. If you're looking for older plans that we've developed and even older maps, those also can be found on our archive page.
And I just want to let people know, actually tonight, Wednesday, what time is the meeting today?
So we have a Citizen Advisory Committee meeting today, and it's at 4 p.m. and it's at the library, at the Round Room, Cricket County Public Library at the Round Room.
And that's 315 West Oak Avenue. So if you are free from 4 to 5 p.m. today, go out to the Citizens Advisory Committee meeting and see what they're discussing. Also, there's another meeting coming up tomorrow, which is the NARTPC Technical Advisory Committee meeting. And then on February 13th, which is a Tuesday, that's the Transportation Policy Committee meeting. I'm guessing there's more because it says view all. But again, this is on the jonesboro.org website. You can find all this information. I'm sure there's a calendar, a full calendar.
There's a full calendar, and there's, for those who don't want to have to go through looking at the calendar on our news page, there's a full list of all the committee meetings for the year, date, time, and location.
Wow. All right, so I'm preaching to myself as well. I'm going to say this to everyone. If you want to know more about what's going on in your city, go to these meetings. City council meetings, any other public meetings, the MPO, the transportation committees. Go and see what they're talking about. And when it's time for you to offer your feedback, please do not be mute about your opinions, I guess you should say, your concerns. Please share those, because that's the only way we can grow and get better, if you share your concerns to the people who are making the decisions.
And I like to, what I call, manage expectations, right? I'm not going to tell you come and you tell us traffic on your street is horrible and tomorrow traffic on your street is great. I'm not going to tell you that, because that would be a falsehood. But what I will tell you is we do take citizen comments seriously, and the active transportation plan is a great example of that. It's a direct result of citizen comments. The name change, we used to be called the Jonesboro MPO.
Okay.
In November last year, we changed our name to Northeast Arkansas Regional Transportation Planning Commission. It is longer, but the citizens said they wanted something clear to distinguish us from city organizations. They wanted to know what we do. So in the name, it tells you we're a Transportation Planning Commission. It tells you where we're located. And so that also is another direct result of citizen comments. So we do value those comments, and we take them very seriously, and we try to incorporate them in plans. And even when things don't happen immediately, the word is getting out, your concerns are getting out, and not only locally, but also at the state and federal level.
Wow. Alrighty, so we're going to get ready for another break. I'm surprised at myself for, I guess, knowing more or being more engaged. Like, I've lived in Jonesboro over 20 years, and I wasn't as involved as I am, I said, within the past 3 to 4 years, and I'm really enjoying learning more, getting to know more people, and learning how things work instead of just being on the outside. I'm now getting my hands a little dirty. But anyway, with that being said, we're going to take a break. You're tuned into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. It's important that you recognize and guard against the 7 deadly sins of money management. Today, we'll cover lust and pride. Lust. This is when you spend for the pure joy of it. When you're willing to lie, cheat, go into debt, and even steal to shop, that's lust. Another sign. After the highs of spending, you're hit with the lows of guilt. Pride. We're often guilty of pride in 2 ways. One is when we're too prideful to admit that we're in deep financial trouble and we won't reach out for help, whether that means getting credit counseling or just admitting to your spouse or your kids that you really can't afford this expensive stuff they want. The other side of pride is not being able to say to yourself, I can't afford this right now. A lot of people feel that this admission means that they failed themselves in some way. Swallow your pride and focus on what you can afford. Never be ashamed to live within your means. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-98
For almost 3 years, KLEK 102.5 FM has brought you the music you love on your radio, on your computer, and on your phone. Now, we want to bring the music to your party, wedding, or any event. KLEK now offers DJ services for all occasions with over 22 years of DJ and broadcast experience. We can also announce your event on KLEK. Need a photographer for that special occasion? We got that covered too. Package deals available. Book us for DJ, photography, or for both for your event today. Call 870-203-9951 or look us up on social media at KLEK-FM.
Karaoke and photo booths with a custom design of your event are also available.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
Support for KLEK is brought to you by
Fullness of Joy Ministries, 2120 Thorn Street, Jonesboro, under the direction of Bishop Adrian Rogers and co-pastor Susan Rogers. www.fjministries.org.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I hope that you have been enjoying our conversation with Mrs. Erica Tait. I hope that you've learned a little something more about how planning goes when it comes to transportation. Transportation is not just about the cars on the road. It's about every entity of transportation that you can imagine. And so I'm going to let Mrs. Tait wrap up some things we've talked about and then share any final thoughts of things we didn't get to cover that you may need to know, and then also remind people of meetings, committees, and things of that nature.
Awesome. Thank you. I really enjoyed this time to share with everybody what the MPO does, how we're working to strengthen regional transportation and to get community input. I do want to share with you all that we will be working on 2 plans that would be of particular importance to you. The first is a short-term plan that outlines projects that we're pretty certain we'll have money to do over the next 3 to 5 years. And so we'll be developing that this spring, and please be looking in the paper for announcements, for your opportunity to give feedback, for your opportunity to come to a public input meeting. And we usually publish a notice in the paper. We do have Facebook and Twitter, so we usually publish notices about meetings and upcoming events on those as well. So we're hoping that you will plan to join us and give your input there. And then as we've talked about a little bit today, public transportation is an area that we work with JET, and we coordinate with the state and our federal partners. And in conjunction with JET, the MPO is going to be working with a consultant to develop a transit development plan. We currently don't have one for the region. We know that transit ridership is growing, and we want to make sure that we kind of outline a plan for how we can be strategic and make the best investments in transit going forward. So we will be looking for your input with that as well. So again, look for notices on our social media, on our website, and in the newspaper about how you can get involved there.
Okay. Go ahead.
If you are interested in being a part of our Citizen Advisory Committee or even our Active Transportation Committee, please feel free to contact me. My contact information is on the website, like Yubila has said, and we look forward to having a variety of voices, a variety of transportation stories. Those help make our plans more comprehensive and more informative for our state and federal partners. So we really would encourage your participation and look forward to it.
All right, so I just pulled up your Facebook page, which is Northeast Arkansas Regional Transportation Planning Commission. If you type in some of that, it will populate the page, and the icon or the profile picture looks like a little highway. It's in a circle, so look for that profile picture. Go ahead and like and share the page. Now, the first thing I saw is a Smart Cycling 101. hosted by Northeast Arkansas Bicycle Coalition. That's coming up in February. So there's a lot of other information on your page. I see this notice for the Regional Active Transportation Plan. There's a link to that on here. So there's quite a bit of information. There's a message from Michael Black, the director of JET.
So we try to do, that is a community or committee member profile. So we try to get a quote and a picture from all of our committee members so people can be more familiar with who they are and how they've been active in transportation planning.
All right, so please go check out their Facebook page, Twitter. Do you do Instagram?
We don't do Instagram.
No Instagram.
No Instagram.
But I think the city web page, Facebook and Twitter is quite a bit. So please check them out. Leave your feedback. Leave comments under the different posts. Make plans to go to these different meetings. Let your voices be heard. Don't just live in the city. Be a part of the city or the community that you live in. Bay, Brooklyn, Bono, and other areas in Craighead County. All right, so any final thoughts?
I would just like to thank you all for listening, for tuning in, and again invite you to be a part of the transportation planning process. Your input matters, and it's vital to our work here. When we changed our name, we added a tagline to our logo that says Transportation for Life, because we do think that transportation affects every aspect of life, and we all have a transportation story and experience. So we look forward to hearing from you all on our Facebook, on our Twitter, at our meetings, and I hope to see you soon.
And don't forget to please go and take the survey. Is there a link to the survey on?
There's not a link to the survey on the Facebook page.
Okay.
I'm sure there is somewhere, but it won't be easy to find. But if they go to our website, on our front page, we have like a sort of scrolling PowerPoint. And there's an image that says, literally, we need your feedback.
Okay.
If you click on that image, it will take you directly to the survey.
Alrighty. And I see there's a story. KIT did a story. A dozen road projects have been put on hold around Arkansas due to funding concerns. And that there's a link to tell you which one. It says 12 road projects on hold from RDOT, which is Arkansas DOT. So there's a lot of information here. There's a public hearing. Well, that was yesterday. There's a lot of different things going on. Okay, there is a Healthy Heart Run Walk. So you all try to also keep the community informed on just everything going on around the community.
Anything related to transportation or to our partners, if there's a partner in the city. For example, Bono recently built a walking trail, beautiful walking trail, and a lot of people don't know about it, so it's in our newsletter that we'll be sending out fairly shortly. So we try to really promote the region and transportation projects that are happening in the region that are helpful. We work with the Bicycle Coalition, with Healthy Active Arkansas, so you'll see some posts from the DOT. Anything that we think is important and relevant to share with our community, we try to post on our Facebook and social media.
Okay. And I see another thing. I'm trying to go this quickly. U.S. Department of Transportation, they posted this little colorful graphic information page. Did you know Americans took 10 billion trips on public transportation in 2017? The National Transit Database was established by Congress in 1974 as the nation's primary source of information and statistics on the transit system of the United States. And so there's a link to read more information, but this is a really nice graphic to give you just an overview of different transit agencies, routes, just some statistics. And so there's information like this on there. So it's not just Jonesboro or Arkansas. You can also see some national statistics on what's going on concerning transportation. So please go check all these different pages out. Become more informed, period. And then let your voices be heard. Go to these different meetings. There's a meeting tonight. Well, not tonight. This afternoon at 4:00 p.m. at the Craighead County Public Library here in Jonesboro, 315 West Oak Avenue, West Oak Avenue, in the round room.
Yep, in the round room of the public library.
Okay, so please go out to that, and then go to the webpage, jonesboro.org, look on the calendar, and mark your calendar with the next events so that you can become a more informed citizen of this great city. All right, so we thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And so when we have some more topics come up or more questions or anything new going on with the city, please keep us informed so we can let everybody know on our social media pages.
I will do it. I absolutely will.
All right, so you're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I've been your host, Kabila Harden, along with Mrs. Erica Tait. So far tomorrow, I don't know who my guest is. It's kind of up in the air. Tomorrow kicks off Black History Month. I know that there's a panel discussion on campus, and I'll make sure to get you that information. It's why do we still celebrate Black history? So have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues.